Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, you're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else, not in the media, and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Welcome to another edition of Illinois Rising. I'm Dan Proft, co-host of Chicago's Morning Answer, AM 560, 5 to 9 a.m. weekdays with Amy Jacobson. And joining me is Pat Hughes, the co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project. And Pat, we're nearing the beginning of and end of the filing deadline. It's just a week for candidates for the March 20 primary and the November general election for statewide and state legislative offices. And at the top of the ticket, there is still this pending matter of will Bruce Rauner face a primary challenge, and that primary challenge is going to come or not come from State Representative Jeanne Ives, Republican from Wheaton, who we've supported in our private lives as politically engaged individuals. Where do you kind of assess the race on both sides of the ledger, both Republicans as well as Democrats at this point?
So if Jeanne Ives decides to go, it's a matter of threshold resources. If she has enough resources so that the public knows, the Republican primary public knows who Bruce Rauner is and who Jeanne Ives is, they'll vote for Jeanne Ives because Bruce Rauner is not someone, if they know who he is based on his record, based on his failure of accomplishments, based on HB 40 and sanctuary state, he's very, very vulnerable, and he's tremendously vulnerable in the electorate. So Jeanne Ives would have an opportunity to argue to the electorate that she has a better chance of winning the general than he does. On the Democrat side, I see it as a three-person race, Biss, Kennedy, and Pritzker. I still think Pritzker has the lead because of the money, because the Democrats want his money. He's locked up a lot of the sort of structural endorsement. He's going to get a lot of the union support. So sitting here right now, I think it's going to be Pritzker, and I think if Jeanne decides to run and she's able to raise the threshold resources, she has a great chance of being the nominee on March 20th.
Well, let's get a sense of where the race is at from the aforesaid Representative Jeanne Ives, who joins us now. Jeanne, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on this show.
So, you kind of give us the state of play as you see it with respect to your possible candidacy and how things are congealing for you as you circulate petitions and trying to raise the necessary money to be able to get a message out and talk to people all over the state.
Well, we've only been in this process for about 3 weeks, quite frankly, which is about the time when we actually had our petitions on the street. And the response has been overwhelming from across the state. I'm actually humbled by it all. But we've got signatures in from at least 43 different counties. I'm not going to tell you how many we have in, but we have a lot of signatures in, and from at least 150 different circulators. And none of it is paid. We're not paying people to circulate my petition. They're actually finding it online, downloading my petition at ivesforillinois.com, and they're going out to their neighbors and getting it notarized and mailing it back in. So the process is working completely because people are motivated for an alternative to Rauner on that ballot. So I'm very heartened by the response that we received so far from across the state. So,
Jeanne, none of that surprises me, obviously, because I know you. And I know the conservative grassroots. Dan and I were in a similar position years ago when we ran for governor and Senate in a primary. There's a lot of great people out there willing to support a tremendous candidate like yourself, a tremendous person like yourself. The question I have is, that's great. What can you do? What is your plan to accumulate the necessary resources to run against the guy and figure out a way to reach the people that aren't paying as close attention as sort of the boots on the ground that we typically see?
You know, we have to raise just enough money so that we can get our message out and get my name ID up and let people understand who we are as a team and what we stand for. And granted, I know that is a critical piece to being successful, but we're working every single day on it. And every single day we are connected with more and more people willing to donate to this campaign. So I truly believe the resources will be there when we need them. And again, we work every single day with that. We had a great fundraiser last night down in Downers Grove. The room was packed, a lot of enthusiasm and energy in that room. And I know that folks will come out and donate. We have online donations from everybody. And what really heartens me is, and I know it's not probably a large denomination, but when you get a letter in the mail, and it's from somebody in a town you've never heard of in the state of Illinois, and they sent you a $10 check. And I tell you what, that's what motivates me to keep going, because those people believe that the right leadership can turn this state around, and they want to vote for somebody who's principled. And when I tell that story to larger donors, they get excited about helping those people achieve that goal too.
After Rauner's series of betrayals that Pat mentioned at the outset of the segment, do you sense that there is still this revolt within the Republican ranks, both your colleagues in the General Assembly as well as just the rank and file grassroots? You know, it's tough to keep. It's tough for people to stay angry. So you know, there's the people getting upset after the tax increase passes over the governor's veto. There's people being upset after trans birth certificates and sanctuary state and public funding of abortion and protecting Obamacare, Medicaid expansion, and so on and so forth. But it's just tough to sustain it. Or do you think that it is sustained? What's your sense from talking to all those different constituent groups?
Well, I think that you've got a couple different groups. One, it's very sustainable, the anger at what Rauner has done. They feel betrayed by him. They're outraged. And then there's a whole other section of folks that are just like, I give up. I've had it with Illinois. The state is just broken beyond repair, and I don't care what you do. I'm just not going to do anything anymore. So you've got two factions there, and Rauner created all of it, quite frankly.
Yeah,
we elected him to stand up, and he betrayed us. So, we're still going to be connecting with people and letting them know that there is a better way and that leadership matters. And the outrage has not subsided that much. I was just looking at a post that Governor Rauner made on Facebook, and the comments underneath it were just unreal. I mean, they're just still so outraged from him, and that was a post just from today. So there's a core set of folks that are not going to forget what he's done.
Jeanne, one of the things that I think gives tremendous credibility to your candidacy, in addition to all the other things that people know about you, is that you were willing to work with this governor. You were willing to support this governor. You were hoping, like I was and Dan was, that this governor was going to be the answer. And it was only after he proved time and time again that he wasn't standing with the people, and he certainly wasn't standing with the people in the Republican primary electorate, that you decided to say, no, I can't take any more of this. It's time to step up.
Sure. Not just, look, my colleagues were some of the first people to call me and say, you got to get in this race. We need somebody that we can trust. They were my colleagues. And last night at the fundraiser, I had my colleagues standing up there and standing with me in opposition to Rauner. And every single one of us tried to work with the man for 2 long years. We gave him great policy advice. We handed him programs that he should have implemented. We actually counseled him and his staff when they didn't understand how things worked down in Springfield. And this last year, it's just like they entirely gave up and gave in.
Your colleagues,
and they surrendered.
Your colleagues, name names. Who is supporting
last night,
you?
Tom Morrison was there. Margot McDermott was there. Alan Skillicorn was there. And I have other colleagues who just couldn't make it, but they're standing by me.
And the issue, I mean, some of the issues are obvious. We've just mentioned them. The legislation that Rauner signed that you would have vetoed, that you voted against as a state representative. Other issues that are separators for you. I know in an op-ed in the Daily Herald last week, you referred to Rauner's proposal for a property tax cap, as well as the one that was passed by Democrats, as sort of phony property tax freezes. What did you mean by that, and what should be done with property taxes?
So one of the Democrats, Michelle Mussman, actually ran a property tax freeze vote. And it was the 18th time in the last 2 years we've taken that vote. And yet your property taxes aren't frozen. And even on the House floor, we said, where's your Senate sponsor? Is this legislation going to die in the Senate just like the other ones did? Oh, no, we're going to pass this. It's going to work this time. No, the Senate didn't even take it up. And they control the Senate. The Democrats control the Senate. They control the House. And we knew it was a fake bill for her reelection only. They're saying one thing at the doorsteps of voters, and they're absolutely doing the opposite. It's all about optics. and how they look.
What about what Rauner has proposed on the property tax front, and whether that is real or phony as well?
Well, that's not good legislation either. First of all, why would you freeze the highest property taxes? As we've talked about before, homeowners are looking for certainty, and a property tax freeze under any of the legislation that was proposed, and including Rauner's, is not a freeze. Bond indebtedness is outside of it. Pension obligation is outside of it. You can't, even if you fix the levy, it doesn't mean that an individual homeowner's property is capped. And that's what the individual homeowner wants. And so you're lying to people if you talk property tax freeze without talking about a hard cap on their individual property, how much they're going to pay. And that's what the model we have to get to.
All right.
Get to the Indiana and California model.
She is State Representative Jeanne Ives, Republican from Wheaton, and perhaps Republican candidate for governor here in the primary. We're going to find out soon. Jeanne, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.